Is what the ODM party leader wants in terms of at least a way out of this crisis for the counties to function, because he, the ODM party leader, has been a champion of the devolved system of governance and the 2010 constitution. What do you think then will be the priority here today as the senators for the 7th time will be going to the House to debate what will affect millions of Kenyans across the devolved units?
Ayub, good morning and good morning to our viewers. Thank you for having me. Now, personally, I feel that the winner today should be Kenyans and devolution. And despite which party someone subscribes to or which kind of alliance someone is in, I really believe that distribution of resources must not be based on party politics. And that's why we have the CRA. The Commission for Revenue Allocation has had a formula. And I've taken my time to look at the formula. And they are presenting issues in that formula. For heaven's sake, if we were to have a discussion, I think we need to have a discussion based and around those issues that are presented by the CRA. They are talking about the population, they are talking about the land mass, they are talking about marginalization, agriculture. And when you look at the proposal keenly vis-a-vis what is happening, and I would tell you, I've taken an example. I don't come from Migori and I don't come from Mandera. So I looked at the two counties without interest. And the population of Mandera in the 2009 census, as presented to Kenyans, was 400,000. Now, the population for Migori, as presented in 2009 census, was 1.2 million. Now, then it means that Migori is 3 times more populated
in terms of
population,
demography,
and than Mandera County. In terms of landmass, Mandera is bigger than Migori County. But then look at the previous formula and what they presented to Migori vis-a-vis what was presented to Mandera County. Now, Mandera County was getting a whole 12 billion vis-a-vis Migori County that was getting 7 billion in a year. So you look at that discrepancy, and I ask myself a question. If I were a polygamous man today, I am not. Or Mwangale, for example,
I will not
as an example, okay, has 2 or 3. Then the first wife, call her A, has 12 children, and your second wife B has 3 kids, for example. And for the longest time possible, you've been giving the first wife 1,000 shillings maybe for daily upkeep, and the second wife, who has 3 kids, has been getting 300 shillings maybe, or 500 as daily upkeep. Now, the only reasonable thing when you get a new formula of ensuring that your family has equitable distribution of resources in that particular setup, one is to ensure that the allocation goes up, so that if you were initially, because you are sharing 1,300 between the 2 of them, then at least ensure that you are seen to be fair, and you are now sharing maybe 2,000 shillings between the 2 of them. Then you can now interfere with the formula. Now, the current arrangement as it is, and be may as it is, you realize that it was 316 billion shared to the 47 counties. Okay. The same amount is the same amount in question right now. But then we are talking about some equitable share, and we are taking money from point A to point B. Leave that alone, Ayub. Now, in devolution, we devolved health. Now, the Constitution stipulates, and CRA is telling us right now, that 20% of the 316 billion should be allocated to health for the whole counties. Okay. Now, when you look at the national budget that was read by Ikuri, they are giving 72 billion shillings to the Ministry of Health. Now, look at 72 billion to a ministry that has only referral hospitals. And for example, in the whole of Nyanza, the previous Nyanza province, we only have 2 referral hospitals. We have Kisi and
the Rift Valley 2,
and so
Nairobi 1.
You can't tell me that someone who has less than 10 hospitals is given 72 billion, and someone who has a whole lot of the remaining hospitals is given 20% of 316 billion, which amounts to almost just 12 billion. It is so unfair, and for us to get a formula, I believe today we are going to have a formula. Whether the Sakaja way or the Kangata way, Kangata amendments, we are going to have a formula. Then let the formula be fair.
Okay, in your view then, even as you seek a fair formula in terms of the sharing of the 316 billion, you still stand by defending the devolved system of governance, and that the government should put out its fingers from the pot in terms of micromanaging a devolved function, which is health.
Not health alone, even agriculture.
Okay.
What is
but here specifically we're talking about?
Specifically, I'm on health.
You pointed out health,
yes.
which is the devolved function.
But then what we need to realize is that the government is giving with one hand and taking with the second hand. That is wrong.
Okay.
Secondly, the proposed formula, according to me, is not denying anyone money, and it is not giving anyone a lot. What the formula and what the amendment by Irungu Kangata is simply saying is that let's accept the formula right now, then give it a window of 2 years. Now, in the window of 2 years, we would have increased allocation to these counties so that no one would be seen to be losing money. But then when politics comes in, and you call the formula Raila Uhuru formula, and call those opposing it the Tanga guys, then we lose out in what we need to get. And that is why I started by saying, in everything that we do, Kenyans should win today.
Which is a priority here, because we devolve power and function from the national government, and the funds do follow functions across the devolved units. Philip Mwangale rather, sorry. And let me just incorporate my question to this tweet by the Narok County Senator Ledama Olekina, who said, it will be suicidal for any senator to accept a bribe of 5 million shillings to fuel the division of Kenya due to the revenue share discourse. May your family never have peace if you accept a bribe to divide Kenya. And then there's the wording there in his native Maasai or the Maya language. But Victor, it's a clear illustration, isn't it, of the crude blackmail that appears to be hanging around the Senate, even as they are set to debate this crucial matter which will affect the 47 counties?
You know, I am happy and a little disappointed in that tweet because, well, I have thought for a long time that the monies that exchange hands between senators and members of parliament is a little less than 5 million. I didn't know it's 5 million. Perhaps it's because this is a weighty matter, and so it has been the price has been pushed to 5 million. But that's it. You know, when within this past week, we've been told that lobbying has been going on, and the political definition of lobbying, at least in our Kenyan context, is one, you must have some coercion in there. You will have intimidation and threats. And what now Ledama Senator is talking about when money is changing hands. You'd seldom have people being persuaded in the line of reason. But Victor will tell me if that is true or not true. But that's it. Let me borrow Victor's analogy and just tweak it a little bit. When you have this polygamous man, he has the first wife has 12 children, the second has 3. But then you have the one with 12 having 8 children who are adults and they're working for gain. So you have 12 children, yes, but you have a number of these 12 children who are well off. They can support their household or their mother for that matter. You cannot then employ equality at that level, so that you will not be giving the same amount of money you give to the one who has 3 children, even though she has fewer children who perhaps are in school. You cannot give them the same money, the same amount of money. And that is where the argument between equity versus equality comes in. And what the Constitution envisages in Article 203, 202 and 203 is that revenue sharing, not just at national level, but at devolved level also, must be equitable. Now, equity is not very different from equality. On one hand, equality looks at treating everyone equal. Equity looks at treating everyone according to their peculiar circumstances and dependent on their need. So, for example, if you're looking at counties that are sparsely populated, especially counties on the northern frontier and the ASAL counties specifically, these are counties that have enjoyed systemic marginalization. So if we were, and this is the mistake perhaps we entered into when we were promulgating the Constitution, these are things that we should have looked at before. We would not be here at this time. But it is good for us to have this conversation. It is healthy, so that years down the line we do not get to the same position.
Okay.
So such counties have been marginalized. They have had systemic disenfranchisement economically because of political persuasion and political alignments. So we must take into account those considerations. And I do not agree with the formula that was proposed by the CRA, in as much as expertise was put into coming up with the formula. One, because it does not really align to Article 203. The considerations, and Victor has pointed out some of those considerations. The first consideration that is given a value of 0.45 is the population factor. Then you go down to land area, you have the fiscal factor, and the last factor is development. That, in my view, is an inverted priority. I think we should have begun with development rather than looking at the population first, because development then informs how the population is receiving those resources.
Which includes infrastructure,
exactly,
healthcare.
Yes, and that is what the Constitution talks about in Article 203. If I may just refer to Article 203, it says, among other things, you must ensure that you are looking at, this is the criteria that the Constitution recognizes, that you are looking at the development factor, fiscal capacity, the need for affirmative action, and this is what we are missing in this formula by CRA and the proposal by Kangata. You must also look at economic disparities across counties. This is the criteria that is recognized by the Constitution. The Constitution does not even look at population, but of course when you're looking at equity, that comes into play. So if we stuck to what the Constitution tells us to do, then we would not be in this position. So
in your view, then the CRA, in terms of what it presented at the Senate, is not fair in terms of the devolved system of governance and what resources ought to be going to the counties?
I will not say it's not fair. It is not equitable.
Okay, as the Constitution envisages.
As the Constitution envisages.
Okay, which equally is captured under Article...
Just to add on to what he's saying,